Welcome to our study on the book of Job. We're studying what we're calling Triumphing Over Trouble. Triumphing Over Trouble. If you do not have a copy of the syllabus, please contact our office and we'll tell you how you can get the notes for studying on the book of Job. This is our second lesson, and we're calling this, Does God Gamble? Does God Gamble? Now, that's more than just a play on words. It's, I think, a very, very good question. As we open up the book of Job, you'll find in verse 6 of chapter 1, it shifts to a heavenly courtroom scene. Now, there came a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And so we go immediately into this heavenly courtroom scene where the sons of God are coming to present themselves before the Lord. This is interesting. The word sons of God would refer to angels. All different, there's different types of angels, and so these are different angels that are coming, giving their reports in heaven before God. And then it says, not only were they presenting themselves, which, as I said, means to give an account of their activities, but it said, and Satan also came among them. It's the first time you find the word Satan in the Bible. The word Satan, and the name literally means an accuser. An accuser. In the book of Revelation, he's called the accuser of the brethren. And the brethren, of course, would be the believers, those that follow Jesus Christ. So he's an accuser. The word is more of a descriptive title than it is a name. And so God challenges him. You'll find this in verse 7. The Lord said to Satan, "From where do you come?" So Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth and from walking back and forth upon it." Now notice what is happening here. You find that Satan is giving an account of his activities to God. It's very similar to what we would say a probation officer, as someone that's on probation has to go before them and give an account of their activities, what they've been doing. That's very similar to what is taking place here. And as he stands before God, God challenges him. He challenges him with this question, "Where have you been?" And Satan replies and said, "I've been traveling on the earth," going back and forth upon it. And quite a restless answer. You'll discover the devil is a very restless spirit, and he's always moving to and fro. And so God challenges him. And here's what he said. The Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job?" Now let me pause for just a moment, because that's exactly what the devil had been doing. It shows that God knew his activities, and so God is challenging him on this. He said, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and an upright man, one who fears God and shuns or hates evil?" Boy, God is rubbing it in his face, isn't he? He's challenging him with this. Now, this second question, and he's saying, "Have you considered my servant Job?" It shows that God already knew what the devil was doing. And that's something that we need to get straight in our thinking. The devil never pulls any surprises on God. God is wiser than the devil. In fact, the Bible describes it like this: to the only wise God. The devil is very foolish. Now, he's very cunning. Oh, yes, he's smart. He's shrewd, but he's not wise. No wisdom at all. And so when he uses this word, consider, "Have you considered my servant Job?" That word means set your heart, your attention upon him. That's exactly what the devil was doing. The devil had looked at Job, and he realizes Job is the greatest of all men, if there's just some way I could get to him. And he's looking for a way that he can attack Job. And so this is why God is challenging him. God is As I said, he's challenging the devil. He's putting it in his face. He begins to testify about Job's righteousness. Here's some of the words that he uses to describe Job. He says, he is a perfect man. Now, don't let that word throw you, perfect. It doesn't mean absolute perfection. It simply means maturity. This is not a baby believer. No, this is a mature believer, a mature man. He is perfect. He's upright. In other words, he's living a very righteous life, a very godly life. He fears God. In other words, he reverence and respects God. God is at the proper place in Job's life. And then he says, he hates evil. God had to say that because he's talking to the devil, so he's putting it to him, and he said, he hates everything that you stand for, everything that you represent. So God is challenging Satan concerning this. And we're going to look at this later. Why would God challenge the devil? Why wouldn't God leave good enough alone? Because the truth is, good enough is not good enough. He's an upright man, he's a righteous man, he's a mature man, but there's still some things he can learn. Now, looking at verses 9 through 11, Satan answers the Lord and he said, does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a hedge around him and all his household and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But now, stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. The devil doesn't take this lying down, does he? When God challenges him, Satan doesn't answer the question. He just comes back with his challenge toward God. And he challenges God, and he's saying, Job doesn't love you. Boy, do you see what Satan is doing? He's attacking God where God is most vulnerable. The place he's most vulnerable. Job doesn't love you. In fact, he says he doesn't care anything about you. All he wants is what he can get from you. That's what he wants. He loves what you are giving him. And he starts naming off all these possessions and the different things that God has done for him. And he said, on top of this, you put a hedge around him to protect him. Now, why would Satan believe that? He believes it because that's the way he is. Because the devil is selfish, he believes everybody else is selfish. That's the way most people judge life. That's the way they look at life. They judge everybody else from their own lives. Whatever they are, they think everybody else is like them. Now, as Satan challenges God, he uses this word love. He doesn't love you. He will curse you to your face. See, this is God's gamble. The gamble is because God's nature is love. Over and over again, the scripture gives us this definition. God is love. It's the nature of God. And so that is God's nature. He loves. And if you love, you desire to be loved. As I said about the devil, he's a selfish devil, so he thinks everybody else is selfish. God is not selfish. God is loving, so he's reaching out for others that will respond to his love. Now, when you study the Old Testament gives us a picture of a lonely God. A lonely God. In fact, the closer God would get to people, the more they would want to run away and hide from him. And of course, that is why God had to become a man and dwell among us to show us what God was really like. Now, I don't know about you, but I was raised in church, and you pick up a lot of religious attitudes and ideas that nobody maybe ever specifically say it, but somewhere I picked up this religious idea that God was like an old angry man on a throne, a judge with a big stick, and he's just waiting for me to do something wrong so he can smite me. That was my mental concept of God, that God didn't like me, that God was looking for me to do something wrong, just watching. And then one day I was able to realize, now wait just a minute. If God wanted to smite me, I'd give him plenty of opportunities. The truth is, God doesn't want to attack us. He doesn't want to hurt us. God loves us. And this is his problem. The problem is not his power. The problem is God loves. And because he loves, that is his nature, that opens him up for the need for response to his love. That's what the devil is attacking. Job doesn't love you. Now, we all know that God is powerful. That's not the problem. See, power can do anything except the most important thing. What is the most important thing? Power cannot control love. You can't buy it. No, there's no way you can buy love. The writer in Ecclesiastes said if a man gave everything that he had in his house, it would be counted nothing for love. How are you going to get love? The only way to obtain love is to be loving, to love. God loves us. That's the gamble. Will we return the love to him? And so God gives mankind a free will. A free will. It's one of the big theological debates that we hear. We've heard it for centuries. People arguing about the sovereignty of God and the free will of man. Now, with all great doctrines like this, there is the tension between the two. How can you have a sovereign God and yet have mankind with a free will? The only solution that I can come up to that, answer that question is, the answer is between the two. The sovereign God chooses to give the free man his own will. Why would he do that? Because without a free will, we will never experience love. Love is a choice of the heart. Love is something that you can't earn, you can't deserve, you can't buy. Love is a choice of the heart. There has to be a free will that is involved. And so the question is it possible for genuine love to arise out of a free will? The devil doesn't believe so. The devil doesn't believe so. Now, we must confess that we have a free will. I mean, that's the power of choice. And I really believe it is the greatest power that God has given to us, is the power to choose. But without the power to choose, we cannot love or hate. We're simply a machine. We're just robots. We do whatever we're programmed to do. And this is where I believe the evolutionist is totally wrong. Because they say we are nothing more than the product of our DNA. We're nothing more than dancing to the tune of our DNA. That's nonsense. Nonsense. You can prove it with one word. The word love. Love. Love is impossible if we're simply dancing to our DNA. Love comes out of a free will. So God is gambling. Will mankind love God or hate him? That's the big gamble. That's what the devil is challenging here in saying, Job doesn't love you. He loves what he can get from you. He just wants the substance, the things, all the stuff. Now, when Satan starts talking, he is admitting his own guilt when he says that God has protected Job. In the way that he said it, you put a hedge all around him. How does he know there's a fence all around Job? Because he's been there. He's been, what we would say for a thief, casing out Job's life, his possessions. He's been searching, looking for a way that he can attack him. But he said, you've got a hedge all the way around him. I can't touch him. That's good news. That's very good news to know the devil cannot touch our lives without God's permission. And so Satan, the accuser, he's living up to his name. He accuses Job of being a hypocrite. Now pause for just a minute and understand. We're not just talking about a man of long ago. No, we are talking about ourselves today. Do you really love God? How do you know that you love God? There will be tests in your life that will prove the fact. If we truly love God, we will love God even when we are stripped away of everything. We will love God anyway because we choose to love God. The devil believes that we're all hypocrites. The devil believes that we only follow God because of what we get from God. And so he challenges God and he says, take away Job's wealth. Take away everything that he has. And you will see he doesn't love you. In fact, he will curse you to your face. Wow, what powerful words. This is all taking place in this heavenly courtroom scene. Now, let me show you God's response to this. This is in verse 12. The Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person. And so Satan went out from the presence of God. Now what that shows us, not only does Satan have to obtain permission to attack us, but it shows that God limits how far he can go with the temptation. Now the Apostle Paul says something very similar to this when you read in 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter, verse 13, and he says, God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted above what you are able. But he goes on to say, with the temptation, he will also make a way of escape. God always does. And so God is limiting Satan and saying, all right, you can touch what he has, but don't touch him. Oh, that should be encouraging to every one of us, because so many people think that God and the devil are equal. No, not at all. Not at all. The devil is a creature, a created being. He is not on the same level as God. He has to operate under the permission that God gives to him. And so in this story, it's very clear. Satan is the one who is afflicting Job. It's the devil that's attacking him. But the way that he attacks him, the way that he afflicts him, he does it in such a way that he makes it appear like God is the one that is attacking him. Now, what I'm saying by that is, Satan is the master of deception. The master of deception. He does it, but he does it in a way that it looks like it is God that is doing it. That's still the way that he operates today. So don't overestimate him, but don't underestimate him either. Remember, God limits the devil in how far he can go when he's attacking us. And that should be good news to every one of us to understand the devil doesn't have all power in our life. Now, going back to the story, you'll find in verses 13 through 19, there was a day when his sons, this is the sons of Job, his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabaeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed all the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 bands and raided the camels and took them away. Yes, kill the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Well, I mean, it's getting bad, isn't it? And then it gets worse. And while he was speaking, another came and said, your sons and daughters were eating, drinking wine in the oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came across the wilderness and struck the four corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you. Powerful words. Boy, you talk about a terrible attack. Now, it doesn't get any worse than this. Satan not only is attacking Job's possessions, he's also attacking Job's family. The things that are nearest and dearest to him, it's all taken away. Now let me describe it like this. Satan's attack, the way that his attack came upon his life, it was sudden. It said it fell upon them. It happened so quickly. It all happens in one day. It was deceptive. Note their words when they say, the fire of God fell from heaven. The devil is making it appear like God is the one that is doing this. It was cruel, cruel. They are all dead. And not only was it cruel, it was also very certain. Every one of these had an eyewitness report. I only have escaped to tell you. You note in every case, the devil left at least one person to come and tell Job. I think that is still his tactic to this day. There's always at least one person to come and tell you what happened. Satan is doing this. Job's response to this moves me very deeply. How did Job respond to it? You'll find this in verse 20 through 22. Then Job arose. He tore his robe and shaved his head and fell to the ground and worshiped. Now let me pause there for just a moment because we need to let that word sink in. So many times we think of worship as only those high emotional moments when we're feeling, the presence of God all around us. No. There is none of that in this story. Job is totally crushed and broken by what he experienced. But the truth is, this probably was the finest moment of worship in his life. Probably the greatest act of worship that Job had ever given to God was at this moment. He fell to the ground and he worshiped and said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all of this, Job did not sin, nor charge God with doing wrong. What powerful words. I look at this experience of this man of so long ago, without a Bible, without a priest, without a pastor. He got it right. He got it right. Now, it is true. It wasn't God that took it away from him, but God permitted it to happen. And that's the bottom line where we question, is God fair? Because God being above the devil, then why did God permit the devil to do that? We don't know that at this point in the story. It's not revealed to us. And even when God gives his revelation, he doesn't give us all the reasons behind it. No. But here's the bottom line. The bottom line is Satan lost the gamble. The truth of it is, Job passed the test. He already has passed the test. He's already won this fight. And that's the good news that I'm giving to you. The good news is many of you have already passed the test because you did not charge God foolishly. You did not sin with your lips. Now, so many people fall into that trap, and they begin to say things that they should not say. But Job had already proved he loves God, and he has already defeated the devil with the spontaneous praise that just burst from his heart. A broken heart. He can't even stand. He's fallen on the ground. He's in such a broken, crushed condition. But it said he worshiped. He did not charge God with doing something wrong. He's already defeated the devil. Thank God for that. That ought to be encouraging to you and I. That no matter what the experiences that we have in life, no matter what comes our way, no matter what the pain, understand God still loves us. He's still a good God. It's going to come back to our faith. Do we really believe God? Do we really trust God? Do we really love God? Now, I don't want to be one of those hypocrites like the devil was talking about. Only serve God for what I can get from God. No, I'm not interested in that kind. I want a genuine faith that is able to take whatever, the good and the bad, and offer it all to God as an act of worship. See, the truth is, praise is an expression of faith. Now, sometimes our praise has not been tested that much, and so it may not have that much depth as yet, but you'll have plenty of opportunities. You don't have to go around looking for tests. There is a real devil, and he will see that you are tested there, and God will permit that to happen in your life. But if we understand this basic concept of loving God is revealed in our worship, then worship becomes more than just an emotional experience. We don't have to have the music playing. We don't have to have a choir singing. No, worship comes out of our heart. Faith is energized by love. By love. That's where it comes from. Faith works by love, the Apostle Paul says. And so it's the divine energy that causes faith to operate. And praise is the language of faith. I can remember long ago talking to a little boy about his faith in God. And the little fella could not give me one reason why he believed. His mind hadn't developed to that point as yet. Just a child. And I was talking to him because he was telling me that he loved Jesus and that Jesus was real. And I just started asking him some questions. And I discovered he didn't have any intellectual reasons for believing what he believed. He couldn't base it on any experiences or any learning. It wasn't an educational thing. It was something from his heart. But from his childlike heart, he believed in God, even though he couldn't prove anything. And I remembered the words of Jesus when he quotes from the Psalms, and he said, "Out of the mouths of babies and nursing infants, you have perfect praise." When you have no intellectual reason for what you believe, like Job, he doesn't know why this has happened. He cannot explain any of it, but he still chooses to believe. I challenge you to do the same thing. I challenge you. Let your faith rise above your problems. Let your faith rise above your troubles. And choose to worship God. Choose to believe God. The devil's a bad devil, and he's been telling lies on you. He's been telling God that you don't really care for him, that you don't really love him. Don't let the devil win. Rise above it. And the way you do it is by praise and by worship. And so that's what we find here. In reality, Job is already winning the battle. Now, there's going to be a second test that we will talk about in the next lesson. A second test that's going to come in his life, and you find that he wins it as well. Then he gets into all the details, and usually that's where we begin to experience the difficult times in our own soul. But rise above it. And the way to do it, just keep on believing, keep on trusting, keep on loving God.